Ladies and gentlemen, I really feel privileged to be part of such august audience and respected people on the dais. I think we have had a very insightful, I would say, talk by Mr. Anil Rajput. Not for the sake of repeating, I'll just, there were many points which have an overlap, so I will just restrict myself to two small points and then I'll hand it over to Rajesh Agarwal sir, whom I'm also very eager to listen to. So the first point that we are talking about, the 2011 census, which talks about somewhere around 24 million people with certain kind of disability. Now this data is dated, and also with the revised act which came in 2016, the coverage also enhances. So we are not looking at a population somewhere around 24 million. We are talking about somewhere around 70 to 75 million people with different kind of disability. That takes the problem to the next level. So the kind of scheme, the kind of program, the kind of interventions and the kind of collaboration that is required for assistive technology, the need is much more than what we have thought of. So essentially, even if you look at it, one is the urban problem, the problem of people with disability living in urban. However, if we talk about the 70-75 million people, 60% of this population resides in villages. Therefore, if we actually have to take the assistive technology, the scale of assistive technology and the cost of that assistive technology has to be really, really cheap. And that's where, how and what ways the collaboration between the industry and the civil society happens to make this technology affordable is something which is of prime importance. That's where I really would want to urge the policymakers to work towards that, so that the entire assistive technology becomes affordable for people in villages. The second important aspect, which I think in most of these places or conferences which I have heard, the emphasis is really about employment for people with disability. However, looking at the kind of population that we are trying to address, it might not be possible that we are able to provide employment to the all. Therefore, the other aspect of how and what ways we enable them so that they become part of the mainstream and there is a financial inclusion to the population. That is something which is important. How do we enable them to do something of their own? And the clue that I would want to take, sir, would be the hybrid of National Urban Livelihood Mission and National Rural Livelihood Mission. There was a concentrated effort of how and what ways the livelihood can be increased in the urban sector and the rural sector. However, based upon that, there was a specific need for street hawkers, and that's where PM Swanidhi program came. Now, PM Swanidhi program was a cut-set version of National Urban Livelihood Mission, in which since its inception, more than 50 lakh street hawkers have benefited with more than 8,000 crore of loan, which has helped them to be part of that financial inclusion. I personally believe that something similar for people with disability definitely can help. And a cut set from National Livelihood Mission, Rural Livelihood Mission and Urban Livelihood Mission definitely needs to carve out a specific scheme for person with disability and help them to be part of that financial inclusion. So these were the two important points which I wanted to talk about. First, the scale of the problem, and the second, very specific program around how and what way we can bring people to the mainstream. Last but not the least, I think one which we were talking about, the public and private partnership. How and what ways we can leverage resources and expertise for innovation, for something very clearly like the institutes like ISC Bangalore. How and what ways they are now developing and complete artificial intelligence based assistive technology which is going to work in Indian languages, which needs to be contextualized from Indian perspective. I think such kind of initiatives definitely, which is funded by the industry definitely. How and what ways these kind of initiatives are actually going to help to mainstream such kind of an assistive technology at a very minimal cost, so that people in the hinterlands, regional people in various kind of regions are able to use that kind of an artificial intelligence enabled technology to become empowered and become employable. Those were my 2 cents. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. For a very special address, I would now like to invite Dr. Sara Varghese, Managing Trustee, CDM India. Please put your hands together for Dr. Sara.